So it turned out that I was basically working for free for a couple of weeks just to pay for daycare. So ended up going off and driving a school bus. So I did that in 2016. Loved it, but then discovered that apparently I'm a bit of a numbers geek at heart because I missed working with numbers and people helping, that sort of thing.
I love bookkeeping.
Welcome to the I Love Bookkeeping Show. I'm your host, Ben Robinson, and with me today, I've got a fine lady. It's been great to meet her over the years. She is the owner of Between the Lines Bookkeeping Services. She specializes in trades, contractor niches, and as she calls herself, she's queen of the spreadsheet. So welcome to the show all the way from Saskatchewan, Canada, Tracy Thomas.
Good morning, Ben, and good morning to all the listeners out there.
Yeah, thanks for being with me today. I know that it's probably a cold day up there today, right?
It is a little chilly, and I'm glad to be in a nice warm house right now.
There you go. How much snow is on the ground?
We don't have a lot of snow. It's just the temperatures that are a little daunting. So,
okay. Tell me what you call a little daunting.
Well, of course, we're Celsius up here in Canada. So right now it is minus 29. And when you factor in the wind chill, it then drops it down to minus 38.
Well, you had me at minus. You had me not coming up there right now. But in the summertime, I would love to come because it gets hot as the blazes down here in the south. So
yeah, it gets pretty warm up here too. We get to be, again, in Celsius, it's the plus 30s. So, and our province is known as the land of the living skies. So definitely very beautiful up here.
I would love to come and visit. Every place I've been in Canada has just been beautiful. So thank you so much for being here today. So Tracy, what we like to do always is just to share with the audience your journey, kind of how you've gotten here, because a lot of us can see ourselves and others. And one of the things we also want to do today is to talk about an opportunity or a challenge that you have. But first, let's kind of walk through this journey. So why in the heck did you start a virtual bookkeeping business?
Good question. Everybody asks me that. I've been kind of in the accounting world for about 20 years, working in accounts payable, accounts receivable, a little bit of payroll, that sort of thing. And then I ended up deciding to leave the corporate world. I had 2 young ones in daycare and it was pretty expensive. So it turned out that I was basically working for free for a couple of weeks just to pay for daycare. So ended up going off and driving a school bus. So I did that in 2016. Loved it, but then discovered that apparently I'm a bit of a numbers geek at heart because I missed working with numbers and, people helping, that sort of thing. So then my goal was how to figure out how to merge the 2 jobs, still being there for my kids. And that's kind of how I stumbled across you.
Okay.
You have those 3 free videos that you posted. I'm pretty confident I watched those probably over 1,000 times. Completely drove my fiance crazy because, of course, I had that mindset of an employee versus a business owner.
Right.
So it took a bit, but finally in January of 2017, I took the plunge and bought the course. And as I said, I think my fiance, breathed a sigh of relief from having to watch those videos with me all the time.
I understand that. I got you. Okay, so you were driving a school bus and
Yes.
you said you loved it. So I have been on school buses as both a parent and as a kid. And for you to say you love that, you are a special person, Tracy. So bless your soul for that. Okay, so you're loving that. So you enrolled in Bookkeeper Business Launch in January of 2017.
Yes.
Now, the way that we met, for just so everyone knows, is we've never met physically, but we have met as part of the group. Your post that you did, I believe it was early November of 2017.
Yes.
Where you talked about transitioning over from your job as a school bus driver to now having a virtual bookkeeping business. So that seems about a span of 10, 11 months.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So kind of walk us through that journey of going from, hey, just starting a course, driving a school bus to November, and telling us the end of that story.
Absolutely. So I didn't officially open the doors to my business until June of 2017, June 15th to be exact. In April of that year, I had gone in and we had gone in to pick up my fiance's taxes from his accountant, which happened to be on a Sunday. And of course, the owners, all three owners, were working. And they were looking a little frazzled at the end of tax season, as I'm sure you can relate. And we kind of mentioned, hey, this is what I do. So they took my card. Sounded pretty promising. And then in May, once everybody kind of, went away to regroup and, catch their breath, started meeting with the three owners and talking to them. And it was, a mutual interview. I interviewed them, they interviewed me, and I started subcontracting with them in the middle of June. And for me, I found that to be the best way for me to kind of jumpstart this, because it helped me, again, change my mindset from an employee to a business owner, realizing that I, knew a lot more than I thought I did.
Sure.
And then also helped for me to create my processes and work with multiple clients and different types of clients, not just in what they do for their business, but, some are really good about bringing in paperwork, some not so much. And, all that kind of interesting things that you find. So, for me to be able to leave my bus driver job in November, I mean, as I said, I only opened my business and started working my business in the middle of June. So, one of the things you teach in your class is to always kind of write yourself a letter a year in advance as to where you are. My goal had been to stop driving the school bus in June of 2018 after the school year finished. So I kind of blew that one out of the water.
That's incredible. And I know that there's been another time which you've had that too, and we'll get to that here in just a second. So that's an incredible, I'd call that a trajectory like a rocket, because going from basically June to November, 5 months, and being able to replace that income, and I believe then some, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So it wasn't an easy journey, I'm sure. Nothing was just handed to you. Is that correct?
No. Oh, no. No, I did have to work for it. And, there was many times where, I'd get, they'd give me a new file, and on the outside I was like, oh, sure, no problem. And on the inside I was crying and, freaking out. Then I'd come home, I can't do this. And what am I thinking? And, then kind of watch I'd go back and watch some of those videos in your earlier training. You had the motivational things. And then, I had awesome support with my fiance, huge support factor there as well. And, there was many nights that, he was my cheering section for sure.
I'll tell you what, that is probably one of the best assets that we can have as entrepreneurs, is somebody who supports us wholeheartedly.
Yes.
And a lot of times is not there to be a solution provider, but is just there to be a shoulder to cry on.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's a lonely endeavor,
It is.
I mean, there is no help desk. There's no going into the coffee, going to the proverbial water cooler and chatting. I mean, we're kind of like chatting with ourselves sometimes, and
I've been known to do that.
Lonely.
I've been known to do that.
I've heard, as long as you don't answer yourself, Tracy, that we're okay.
Yes.
That's what I keep telling myself. Right. All right. So you got these clients, or basically the CPA firm, the accounting firm was your client, and then you're working on their clients.
Yes.
So did you go out and get, between June and November, did you go and get clients that were your own?
Not yet. At that point, I kind of focused on just kind of making sure I was, not going to mess up somebody's books. That was my biggest concern, and fear was, that imposter syndrome, and, on the outside, I sounded like I knew what I was doing, but I wanted to make sure I was, I was okay. And the big, again, positive thing for me with the accounting firm is, for them, I could go in and work in the office. So if I did have questions, there was other bookkeepers I could, bounce ideas off of a bit and such, yet still keeping the hours conducive for my kids.
That's
so
great.
It wasn't until about 2018 that I slowly started getting clients on my own, because then of course my self-confidence was up, and I'm kind of a little bit of an introvert. So the thought of going to, any type of a networking thing totally freaked me out, and I got, panic attacks. So by working in the accounting office as a subcontractor, that helped build that confidence. So then I could go to networking events and then slowly start building up my client base personally.
Okay. All right. So just to kind of fast forward here, another year and some months
Mhm.
later, how
Mhm.
many clients do you serve now?
I actually had to write this down so that
And we're all like, I don't know, it seems like a lot.
So as of basically today, with through the accounting office, the accounting firm, I have 13 clients through them, 5 of which I do payroll for. Sorry, I know you're not a huge proponent of us doing the payroll, but I do the payroll for them. Now, all of those 13 clients, not all of them are monthly. Some of them only bring their stuff in quarterly or only bring their stuff in yearly. And I've kind of, I do a lot of like the projects. So, I mean, if they've had some clients that have come in with, 3 or 4 years worth of stuff, I usually get those and work on those. I work mainly in Sage, and they also have some of their clients in QuickBooks Desktop. But I'm slowly transitioning those clients over to the QuickBooks Online.
Good for you.
And most everybody in the accounting office prefers the Sage versus QuickBooks. So anybody coming in that already has a QuickBooks Online account, I get them.
There you go.
So yeah, because the other, and it's understandable because the other bookkeepers are busy and they have a much higher client base than I do. So, they're not as comfortable working in the QuickBooks as I am. So then in my own personal business, I also have that written down too. So as of today, I have 13 clients on my own through my business. 10 of those clients I have on Xero, and 3 of them are on QuickBooks Online.
So you're a busy person.
Yes.
26 clients all told.
Yes.
Yeah. One super client. I guess we could say 14. One
Yes.
super client that has 13 tentacles and then 13 on your own.
Absolutely. And some of
Okay.
those ones that I got on my own were referrals from the accounting office. They just decided to, restructure as well and decided to totally take the bookkeeping aspect out of their business, but keep obviously doing the taxes because I, of course, don't do taxes. So.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's a testament to the job that you do and the service level that you provide. And that's what I find with most bookkeeping professionals is that the attention to detail and the desire to do a thorough job is just irreplaceable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great way for you to continue to get clients. So let's back up just a touch because with 26 clients today and what you're serving, your first goal was to get yourself away from driving a school bus
Yes.
every day. Not that you didn't love it, but you wanted it for more of a lifestyle reason, right?
Correct. Yes.
So you could kind of call your own shots, so to speak.
Yes.
But I know that you had a second goal after that one, after you attained that one, which, by the way, you attained it 7-8 months early. So
Yes.
you're rocking it. So awesome job there.
Yes.
Tell the audience about your second goal, what you wanted.
The second goal at that point was I wanted to be able to bring my fiance off the road. He was driving, he was a truck driver. He did short haul. So, he wasn't gone for, a week at a time, but he was working, anywhere from 10 to 14 hours a day, and he'd come home exhausted, of course. So my goal was I had wanted to try and get him helping out in the business, and try and have him off probably Christmas of 2019 was the hope. I assumed that it would probably be in 2020 before that was going to happen.
Okay. All right. And when was this vision first cast? Like, when did you say,
When
hey,
did I do this vision?
Christmas of December 19th, this is when he's going to get off the road.
Yes.
When did you say that?
I created that goal in November of 2017 once I achieved my goal of doing the business full time. So I gave myself till December of 2019 to try and get my fiance off the road and into the business with me.
Okay. And today is Valentine's Day. So
It
happy
is.
Valentine's Day to you.
Thank you.
2019. I know the end of the story, but tell us what has happened.
Well, as of January 11th, 2019, he finished his final day at work and came on board full-time with me as of January 15th. And I also incorporated the business this year as well, January 7th of this year. Up until this point, I was a sole proprietor, but I incorporated the business as of January 17th of this year.
That's incredible. I mean, first time you beat it by 6 months, and this year this time by a year, basically, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so, Tracy, we got to be more aggressive in our goal setting.
I know. I'm kind of lacking there, I think.
No, I say that tongue in cheek because obviously you've got some secret sauce going on here.
Yes.
That's great. So how is this, we always get focused on the technical parts of bookkeeping and all that stuff, but how has all of this impacted your family? What has this done for y'all?
Well, my head's still kind of reeling sometimes because it's happened fairly quickly in terms of building up the personal side of the business. It started off kind of slow in 2018 to get personal clients. And in actuality, the first one that I did get, we parted ways 6 months after we started our working relationship, only because she was a lawyer and she started working with trust accounts. And I felt I did not have the experience.
Sure.
And I was definitely not about to put, her livelihood in jeopardy to try and learn on the go. Trust accounting is very specific. Like a lot of lawyers can be disbarred if they mess up the trust accounts. So we kind of parted ways, and that kind of had a bit of a setback there, right? Because it was my first client, and my confidence was shaken a little bit, but I just kind of started progressing. So this expansion of my personal business probably really kind of started within only the last half of the year is where it really took off. And I think the biggest thing is I had joined a business to business expo in October, not expecting really anything out of it because I still hadn't really figured out that, what we do is like seriously needed. 8 hours after, from start to finish, when I left that expo 8 hours later, and I had shared the booth with one of my clients, actually, I walked out with 7 leads. I ended up having 4 consultations. One turned into a client pretty much right away. Every time he circled around the booth, if I was talking to somebody, he literally just pulled up a chair and waited until I was free to sit to talk to me. Another one's kind of promising. Unfortunately, she had a fire in her salon, so that's being rebuilt. I had another one that potentially might have just been, checking his options, basically. Again, still good experience to have the consultations, though. And then another one, which again could be another potential huge opportunity, is there was another accounting firm that was at the expo, and I ended up going in to their office after the fact and meeting with one of their partners with a potential referral relationship there again as well. So, wow. And then of course the biggest thing that was able to get my fiance off the road was one of the referrals that I had gotten from the existing accounting firm I'm with was a fairly huge, they're a property management company. So, that was really the turning point for the business where it's like, okay, yeah, hon, you're coming off early. Happy Christmas, by the way.
Wow. Yeah. So what does this mean for your family, like day to day?
Day to day, well, we're here for the kids, again, because of all this, unusually cold weather. We're not always this cold. We can drive the kids to school every morning. They don't have to stand outside and wait for a bus or walk in this horrible weather. Same thing we can
popsicles, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We can get them to and from. Again, if it's just too darn cold and we don't want to leave the house, well, on the weekend we don't have to.
Yeah. And that's great. I mean, it's so awesome, Tracy, to see what you have done, what you and your fiance have done for your family. And it just warms my heart to hear that and to see that and to know that your fiance and your kids are the beneficiaries of all of this.
Yes. I still have to thank you as well, because I mean, without your course, I don't think I would be here right now, just because I didn't have the confidence on my own and especially the knowledge on the business side. And I mean, in all fairness, I did learn a lot too in terms of the bookkeeping side, because I worked in the industry in different areas, being able to put it all together and see the big picture. The course was definitely invaluable for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We always liken it to being a guide. If you're climbing a mountain, you've never climbed it before. We are the guide, but you still have the backpack on. You're still going
Mm-hmm.
up the mountain. We're showing you the best way and making sure you don't fall off the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Those are important things. But thank you for that. So I know also, for those of you listening out there, it's not all been puppy dogs and rainbows.
No,
Um,
lot of
it
lot
is
of late nights.
Yes, absolutely. It
Yeah.
is. For anyone to say that business ownership is easy, they are a damn fool.
Correct.
Because it's not. You mentioned something at the very beginning that I really want to drill in on, and everybody can benefit from this, whether you're thinking about starting a bookkeeping business or you've been in business for 20 years, and that is thinking like a business owner.
Yes.
So, kind of walk me through, what do you mean by that? I mean, what does it mean to think like a business owner in your mind?
Well, for me, I think the biggest thing was knowing that, you know, especially when I subcontract, and I always go back to the subcontracting with the accounting firm, that's kind of where that mind shift switched, because it was like, oh, geez, I can't go in today because my kids are sick, and I should phone somebody. And then I was like, well, no, because I own my own business, so I don't have to phone and get permission to stay home with my sick kid, and it's just knowing that, yeah, you know what, if I don't want to work between that normal 8 to 5 and I want to work, 5 to 9, 5 at night till 9 in the morning, I can do
Sure.
that. I mean, there's lots of times where, after we put the kids to bed, I come downstairs for an hour and do something,
Right.
Just being able to, or going and sitting in a coffee shop somewhere and being able to work there,
Mm-hmm.
it's just the flexibility of not just trading hours for dollars.
Ooh, I love that. Not just trading hours for dollars. That's powerful right there. So, now, what has been a challenge in working for someone else, whoever that is,
Right.
and now working for yourself? Like, what was the big challenge?
I think the big challenge, one of the bigger ones, of course, is the pricing structure. It is a little bit different. You're in the States, I'm in Canada, so trying to figure out that happy medium. And kind of what I've discovered at this point is I typically always start my clients off on an hourly rate. And then after 3 months, perhaps more or less, then we look at moving them to a monthly rate. I find that works well, especially if you're doing a cleanup, because, you may think it's going to take you a certain amount of time to do a cleanup. And once you get in their books and, realize it's taking you twice as long, well, now all of a sudden you're working for pennies when you break down that hourly rates or the monthly rate. So, I found to start out that way. Plus, then this way, when you do transition them over into a monthly rate, to them, it looks like they're getting a better deal. To transition over. And sometimes, some of my clients I have a couple clients that are at this point just small enough that it's beneficial for them to stay on the hourly rate.
Sure.
So, that was, that, and making sure your processes, like how you do things, was the big one too. When you're starting out, start writing that down now, as opposed to when you've got 26 clients and now you're trying to figure out how to train somebody and making sure that they get everything done at the same time. So
Right.
whether that means you have a notebook that you put it in, or a Word document, or whatever you're using to kind of, okay, when you get a new client, what do you do?
Right.
You have to ask for, you have those checklists that you provide us in the course, but, then taking that one step further, making sure that you've got reminders set up, however you're doing that, to make sure that, if they pay their GST, their tax quarterly, that is done on a quarterly basis, or if they're, the source deductions, that sort of thing. We also have another tax called PST in our province. Some of our, sometimes you have to pay that monthly. So again, if but yet some of your clients might pay it yearly. So, different processes is super important to start that, Even if you only have one client,
Yeah,
super important to start doing that then.
absolutely. And that'll be a great segue into the challenge that we have. But one of the things that I just want to make an observation is that the thing that we want as a business owner is freedom, and the word that you used earlier, Tracy, flexibility.
Yes.
And when we get in there, we realize that we have flexibility, and it's almost debilitating sometimes because we've been told what to do. We've been told to use this process. If it's the right process, the wrong process, efficient or inefficient, we've always been told, and that's the employee mindset. And it's funny that it's a double-edged sword, the freedom flexibility sword.
Yes.
On one side, you have you're in control. On the other side, you're in control, and it can invoke fear in you.
Well, exactly, because it's accountability. When you're an employee, you're accountable to your supervisor, your boss. Because if you muck about at work, well, you're not going to
Mhm.
get paid, or they're gonna you're gonna get the pink slip. Whereas when you're your own boss, you're not really accountable to anybody. I mean, you are still accountable to your clients, but
Oh,
I mean, if you
absolutely.
only have a monthly check-in with them, you can think, oh, well, it's, January 1st. I'm not going to talk to them to January 31st. I got lots of time, right? And, so there's still an accountability factor. And I think sometimes for entrepreneurs, it's a lot harder.
Sure. It is. It is. It's a roller coaster ride, but it's one that I wouldn't ride anything else. I'm unemployable at this point.
Yeah.
I bet you are too.
Yes. Yes, I am.
And now you're bringing your fiance into it, and he is going to be the same vein. So
Yes.
congratulations there. Okay, so Tracy, let's start talking about it because you just mentioned processes,
Hmm.
and obviously you've had this exponential growth. And so why don't you kind of tee up the opportunity or challenge that you have that we can walk through today and hopefully get some solution?
Absolutely. Well, as I said, I've already kind of started the idea in terms of processes and getting all that sorted out. I think I've kind of got that fairly under control for now. Marketing, yeah, I'm not really worrying about that right now. I have to kind of catch up and kind of get into our flow with our existing clients.
Sure.
Because a lot of them, again, a lot of growth over the last few months, and a lot of them are, getting their 2018 ready for tax season. So, marketing is, I think, I'll put on the back burner, but I think definitely we may have to look at bringing somebody else on part-time if it keeps growing the way it is.
Okay. And this, when you say somebody else, so this would be in addition to your fiance?
Yes. Yes. Well, because he's now full-time in doing this as well. We're both doing this full-time, and, to be able to still continue giving our clients the quality of work that we want, we may have to look at bringing somebody in at least part-time already.
Okay. All right. One thing that I want to caution you against that you just said, and is to stop and halt marketing.
Yes.
I would not
Okay.
stop that. But now here's the deal: you don't have to take on clients.
Right.
But I don't recommend, and we're talking about marketing, we're not talking about spending money, right? I
Right.
mean, you can spend money to market, and that's called advertising. But you can also do the other things like going to the events. I would just not stop it, because here's what will happen. You will get a person onboarded, you'll get your processes, and then you'll go, now I need new clients.
Right.
And so it takes the momentum to get the marketing machine back up. So two things for you and for everybody out there. If you're building a business that's beyond you, which I do suggest that you do, but if that's in your wheelhouse, never ever stop marketing and never ever stop looking for quality people.
Right. And on a side note, I have never paid for marketing. Well, I guess I should say, other than like some, business cards and my website, to go
Sure.
out and do like a Facebook ad or send out a mailer. I have never done any of that.
Sure.
So I haven't obviously needed to at this point.
No, not at all. But just one of the things that I see, and I know a guy who did this in his practice, where he just did all kinds of marketing and then got a bunch of clients and got overwhelmed there, stopped marketing, and then went into people and then got people on board and then went back to marketing. And that's just an inefficient way. course, I would have never done that. That's not me at all. But now I learned the hard way. We never stop marketing. That doesn't mean we have to bring on a client. Actually, that's the best time to market because you're very selective. And we're normally, you may say, hey, it's going to be $300 a month. You can go, hey, it's going to be $550, and they're like,
Right.
yep, take me up. You're like, well, because you have no pressure on you to get a client. So that's actually a great time to do marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But you also can be more selective. And remember, the deal about marketing is that it's as much about repelling people as it is attracting.
Right.
But don't stop your message. Don't stop getting petite people in the front door. Doesn't mean you have to take them on. You can start a wait list and all this stuff. But as you start to conquer one, we don't want to stop those things right there. We don't want to stop marketing. We don't want to stop looking for quality people. We don't want to stop innovating. We want to do those things.
Okay.
But going back into this specific challenge here, I want to back up just a second before we start talking, because I think your real challenge, we talked about it before the show, was, hey, do I hire an employee? Do I hire a contractor? How does that work? And we'll get into that. But first of all, let me ask you, is that kind of the specific thing that we want to talk about, right?
I think so, because as I said, I mean, the marketing is, I do belong to a few network groups here in the city, and, each one of them, they do like their monthly luncheons and that sort of thing. So I'm still kind of doing that. So I think in terms of the marketing, that's kind of where I'm at for.
No, I'm sorry. I was talking about for, do you hire a contractor?
Oh, yes, I apologize. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge that we're looking at right here.
Mm-hmm.
Before we tackle that, of course, let's back up just a little bit. What do you love to do in your business?
Helping people. I know it sounds weird, but because people, you do their books, how does that help them? But being able to sit across, the table or talk to them, and being able to help them understand their financial statements, where their money's coming from, going, and seeing their face light up because all of a sudden the light bulb's gone on and they get it, and giving them self-confidence that they chose the right path to start their business. They're not bleeding money out the back door. So I think just being able to help, that's why part of me wants to lead to more towards a subcontract role. I myself was a single parent for 17 years. My fiance was a single parent for many years. He had, so I really want to be able to help. I'm not saying that, they're, a potential, bookkeeper or somebody to come on board who has kids, doesn't have kids, or, that sort of thing wouldn't be qualified. But I understand the challenges that, maybe a single parent have in terms of trying to marry a job and their home life together.
Okay. So helping people, whether that be your clients or somebody that you're going to bring aboard, is what you enjoy. Okay. Let's nail down what that means right now in your business. Let's not think about the contractor for now.
Okay.
Let's helping clients. So specifically within your business, what do you enjoy doing that helps your clients? Like specific, is it the client meetings or what?
It's a really hard one. That's a hard question. I mean, I love the client meetings, but I also like doing the work too. If I had to put one above the other, meeting the clients, I think, would edge it out just a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you like meeting with the clients, and what do you think is, so the clients are paying you to get results, right?
Yes.
And whatever that result is. But where do you think that you provide the most value to your client? Where do you help them the most? And what activity do you do that helps them the most?
Doing the bookkeeping, because that allows me to kind of get into their business more, so that when I do talk to them, I have a bit more specifics, in terms of, no, you can't write this off and this is why. Just being able to kind of, aside from just saying, no, you can't do it, that's it, being able to explain to them why they can or cannot do a certain thing I don't know if that really helps or not.
No, it does. I would challenge you on that. I don't think that it's so much the most value that it's actually doing the bookkeeping. I think that it's interpreting what the bookkeeping is telling them inside of that conversation.
Okay.
All right, I think that's the most thing, because if you had and you knew about their bookkeeping, and let's just say somebody totally did their bookkeeping and you just looked at the reports and you knew everything,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't actually have to do it, the most value that you provide is when you sit down physically or virtually and explain to them and build that relationship.
Right.
For me, I think that that's probably where you provide the most value.
Okay.
And the reason that I'm asking about this, Tracy, is that what we want to do before we start hiring, before we just start throwing people at the workload that we have, we really want to understand what our unique ability is.
Mm-hmm.
We want to understand also where we provide the most value for our clients, and hopefully those overlay.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're doing ourselves a service right here. We're doing our client a service. And then anyone who comes to work for us, we're also going to put them in charge of doing what they have as a unique ability. So one exercise for you to do is to really go through and list out all of the things that you do. We always talk about doing a task audit,
Right.
but listing out all the things that you do and then saying, what am I best at? And where do I provide the most value to my client? Me as an individual, where do I provide the most value? Now, let's talk about, what do you not like to do? What's the thing that you put off until the end in your business?
Oh, probably doing my own books, but
Other than that, as it
Yeah.
relates to running,
I
yeah,
know.
yes, we all do that. The cobbler's kids have no shoes, right? Yeah. So, are there activities that just are like, I mean, you don't have to like hate them, but you're just like, I don't really like that.
It's weird, but I haven't really found that yet.
You Canadians are just too nice. You're just too nice. You got to come down here in America and get a little bit of whatever vinegar going through you. All right. But there's got to be something. And so
There's got to be some. I just can't think of anything. I mean, I guess, when I get the books from a client, if, they're like, dirty. And I mean, I had one client, he literally brought me his stuff in a garbage bag. And, it was all
nice.
covered in like drywall dust. It was horrible, but
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There you go. All right. So taking trash bags.
yeah.
All right. So one of the things that we want to do is to figure out, where do you provide the most value? What are you most passionate about? What do you get energized over? And then the opposite side of that for you, and then also for your fiance.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we want to hopefully see out of this exercise is, what are those things that we need to get somebody else to do?
Okay.
What are those things that we need to build a process for that we're really not? I mean, all the things that we do provide value to our client, right? Or they build up to providing that value. So it's not just like, hey, here's financial statements. Obviously, there's a bunch of things that have to happen before. So what we want to do is to say, rather than, hey, who do I need to hire? We need to look at it from the standpoint of, what tasks do I need to outsource? What do I need to get off my plate so that you can focus on doing what you enjoy, what you do in your unique ability, what you do to provide the most value for your clients.
Mm-hmm.
And where we most default to, and I did as well, is that I just said, hey, I'm just going to throw people and go, hey, here's some clients, go manage them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what we want to do. And so what I want to encourage you, Tracy, is let's don't think in terms of a person right now. Let's think in terms of tasks.
Okay.
Let's think in terms of what we want to get off of your plate, and either onto your fiance or onto a third person. So that's the first thing that we want to do.
Okay.
And what I want you to do at first is to find the most simple task that you could offboard. Okay. And it probably would be that you go out there and find somebody on a platform like Upwork or something like that. I know that there's probably a Canadian version. I know Upwork is in Canada as well. And go to it and outsource this one task. And here's what that's going to do for you, Tracy. Number one, it's going to get that task off your plate.
Mm-hmm.
But more important, it's going to now start giving you a framework to start doing this. Because it's a different mindset. So one of the things you talked about earlier was, hey, I have an employee mindset, and now I have to have an entrepreneur mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one transition. Well, now you're going from doer B to leader B. And that's a different mindset change. And that's one of the great things about being a business owner, is that It's always a new mountain to climb. But what we don't want to do is just to wholeheartedly go, hey, I'm hiring somebody, I'm throwing them at this, and hopefully they can take care of everything, even though you have processes and all of that. So this right here, what it does is it pulls double duty. It gets the task off of you. And it also now says, how do I convey the knowledge that's in my head, the skills that I have? How do I create a procedure out of that, create efficiencies, and now hand that off to a person?
Okay.
And start small. It's baby steps.
Right.
Because that, and then they may master it in a day. And then you go, okay, well, here's the next task. And you've already created this list and you're always updating it and you're always refining it and you're always trying to get better.
Mm-hmm.
But now you go to the next task and go, okay, can this same person do it? And I don't recommend that you go out there and hire an employee at this point. I recommend that you hire a contractor as long as you meet all of the requirements. In the U.S., we have certain requirements that say, is this person a contractor or are they an employee?
Right.
I'm sure in Canada they have it as well.
Yeah.
Make sure you abide by all of those, but think of it in the perspective of the CPA firm that hired you,
Mm-hmm.
right? They probably abided by all that, and you're kind of doing the same thing here.
Right.
But really build it instead of from a person, build it from a task perspective.
Okay.
And so let's just think real quick and just name one task that you think it would be pretty simple to offboard to someone else.
Well, we also offer the receipt management in terms of, in QuickBooks Online and Xero, we can attach the receipt right to the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, right there, that's a task that, would definitely be something, they can upload it all to,
Right.
um,
So it's more of an administrative type of thing than it is bookkeeping. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a little bit of crossover, but
yeah, I
okay.
mean, but, and then there's the data entry of that as well,
Right. Okay.
because really that's what I had started my fiance on. He had, broken his foot back in September and, couldn't work and was bored out of
Mhm.
his mind. And
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
where I planted the seed in his head to do this.
Right. Yeah. You've got a bad foot, but you don't have a bad scanner fingers. Get to work.
Exactly.
I gotcha. So when you're putting together this task list, that's a great example right there. What I would do is the most simplest task that you could find and try to, virtual assistants are an untapped wealth
Mhm.
if we work it right. And I always like to find a virtual assistant because the ones that I have worked with that have been great, and we have one now, are instrumental, and they just seem to be ninjas. Whatever I throw at Beth, our virtual assistant, executive assistant, whatever you want to call her, she just freaking just takes it. And I'm like, how do you have these skills? And they're just like these ninjas. And a great virtual assistant is worth his or her weight in gold.
Mhm.
And what I try to do is I don't really try to hire for bookkeeping experience and all of that. I try to hire based upon personality, drive, and just overall smarts.
Mhm.
Because Beth has no prior experience in bookkeeping, to my knowledge.
Mhm.
But I could explain something to her once, and she comes back, and not only has she done it, but she goes, and here's a better way to do it. And I'm like, holy crap, Beth, whatever I'm paying you, let's double it. I'm thinking that in my head. I'm telling her. So Beth, I hope you're not listening to this because we're not doing that. No,
You're
but in all
welcome, Beth.
seriousness, yes, absolutely. You get a commission. In all seriousness, I just know that pretty much, now if I started giving her journal entries and here's some depreciation schedules, I think that she would still master it. She's very smart and very good. And I think that for you, and the great thing about it is that, in terms of hiring a bookkeeping professional versus hiring somebody who's a virtual assistant and has smarts, you are going to pay a reduced rate.
Right.
Okay. And I don't really like hiring people with a lot of bookkeeping experience because now I got to untrain them.
Right. Right.
And they're set in their ways. And not that that's wrong, right? They are who they are, but you're in control. You're in the business. You find somebody that you enjoy working with. So for you and for everybody out there, tap into the wealth of what virtual assistants do. I love them. I mean, I'm sure there's some crappy ones out there, but we have a pretty thorough process for vetting anybody, whether it be a team member, an employee, or a contractor. We we are slow to hire, quick to fire.
Right.
And you have to be very methodical in this. But the first thing that you want to do, Tracy, after you have sorted all of these tasks, is to find a virtual assistant and start giving him or her these tasks one by one.
Okay.
I mean, you can hire for an hour a week.
Mm-hmm.
There's no commitment to you on their long term. There is no, that if they don't work out, you can let them go and get another one. It just provides you with a ton of flexibility. But the real thing what I want to tell you is to be intentional about this and also be methodical about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, here's what a lot of people default to. I'm going to hire this bookkeeping professional. I'm going to hand off these clients to them and everything's going to work out. Well, that is like seeing a unicorn riding a rainbow to the other side and finding what's the little guy there? The little shamrock. Ross is going to
the leprechaun.
Leprechaun. There you go.
Yeah.
Finding a leprechaun at the end of that rainbow. It just doesn't happen like that. It does in the fantasy world, but not here in the real world. And so what we want to do, it's going to take you more time, but at the end of the day, it's going to save you time. It's going to save you money. It's going to create an experience for your clients, which is what we want to do.
Right.
And, you can also, inside of this process where you're engaging a virtual assistant, how can you help them? Obviously, the passion that you have for helping people that are in your shoes and have been where you have gone, you can obviously help them. That's something to keep in mind as well.
Right.
But I think going from this perspective is so much better because I know the other side of it, and it took me a long time to figure all of this out.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just speak from, hey, I know what not to do. But a lot of times, I mean, we crack this nut, but it's at the end of the day, there's another one to crack. But I love that. But does that make sense?
Makes total sense, and I agree too in terms of you don't want to just assume to go out and get, oh, you're a bookkeeping person. Well, come on over and let's hire you because I don't have a bricks and mortar office, and it's more virtual. That is going to be a huge issue as well.
That's why it's a benefit to have in their title virtual assistant. They are used to that.
Yeah.
And obviously within our courses, we promote that you have a virtual business, or at least that you deliver your services virtual for the very reasons that you talked about earlier: freedom, flexibility. You can serve clients regardless of where you are when the kids are grown. If you guys want to move to the Florida Keys where it's nice and warm all the time and you don't have to leave your clients and now go do it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's tons of benefit in there, but you kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, most people aren't used to this new lifestyle, this
Mm-hmm.
new way of doing things.
Yeah.
And a virtual assistant is already a leg up on that. And you can find virtual assistants, by the way, that have bookkeeping experience too.
Mm-hmm.
But look at it as kind of a second thing, right? Because there's so much stuff that we do administratively that we think only a bookkeeper can do, but that's hogwash.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much that they can do. So that would be the specific instance right here, what I would encourage you to do, and just start building the outsource. Now, going back to processes, and by the way, we always like to say, hey, where does this challenge or opportunity fall in our step diagram? So step being S is a strategy, T being team, E being execution, and P being profitability. And this is all about team and execution. T and E kind of go together.
Mm-hmm.
But I needed a nice acronym, so I had to break them out. But this really falls into that category right there. And, you getting your processes down, the great thing about it is as you train this person, get on a screen capture, whether you're using Zoom or you're using GoToMeeting or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and record actually showing how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Record it. And now you have a resource so that the next time you bring somebody on, let's say you have to bring on a second virtual assistant and you want them to be able to do it too, you don't have to retrain totally. You can say, hey, let's go watch these sets of videos so that you learn how to do this task. And now you just come on and say, all right, do you have any questions?
Right.
No. If they're a smart person, they get it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's some that's not a panacea. Doesn't mean that that's going to work every single time, but it gives you a huge advantage in when you hire in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing on this is just to start small, start offboarding, starting from the simplest and then working your way up, where most people start with the most complex and never even work their way down
Right.
and have never done it before. Or if they have done it, they've had, if they had success, it was because of the person and not because of the process. And we don't want to be person dependent. We want to be process dependent.
Right.
We still want to get great people, right? Having great people is a luxury, and having great processes is a necessity. Having both of them together is a luxury. I mean, it's a big benefit for you to have. Now, the only other caveat that I would have in here, Tracy, is that probably you want to do this for you and for your fiance, and then to kind of go through, because, obviously there are certain things that you could probably have on your list that your fiance could do. He's really good at.
Right.
And then he would have certain things. So you kind of want to look at this collectively.
Yes.
But think of it from that task perspective and not the person.
Totally makes sense.
Okay. All right. So any follow-up questions on that and how you go about doing it? That's simple. It's so simple. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Yeah.
All right. So any questions for me on how to do that? Any specifics?
I don't think so. I use Asana a lot. So when I onboard a client, I have, a board already created, and I just have to copy and then just put, the client's name and, their specifics in there. But I have it broken down to in terms of, doing the bookkeeping, do we, upload the receipts, and, how do you do that? Do they give you the personal paperwork, or do you, set up a HubDoc and, account, that sort of thing?
Right.
Of course, I can't take all of the credit for that. There was another group where a lady in a similar situation as yourself, created this system and was offering it,
Sure.
out to the masses. And I mean, again, why reinvent the wheel if somebody else has already done it? So I think that is a good list that I can base on, what my tasks are and what I can, give to somebody else, kind of thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about your action items. I always like to get very granular. As a result of our time here together, Tracy, what are you going to do?
Well, I have to continue with my marketing, still go out to the networking events and such. If I need to put somebody on a wait list.
There you go.
Never thought of that way, but definitely, might have to look at creating a wait list. Again, definitely, listing out what I do on a daily basis, what I'm, best at, and find out what that one or two things that I hate doing, and figuring out, what is out of that list, what can I potentially outsource, and then, outsource that one particular item.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. One of the things, putting together a task description, a job description, so to speak, and that's a whole other can of worms right there.
Yeah.
And we won't go into that because we don't have time today. But at the end of the day, just put it out there, and you can get better at honing those and screening those candidates and all of that. But at first, we just want to start this process. Don't think too much into it. I mean, obviously, we're talking about being intentional here, but a lot of times we get analysis paralysis and go, well, it has to be the perfect job description. No, do your best. Find somebody and then go back and refine it. All right. And by the way, the last nugget that I'll give you is that as you bring somebody on, if you find somebody who's sharp, and if you find somebody that we've talked about here, like our Beth, get them to take ownership of this process, to find better ways to do things, because we get very myopic. We see it. We see we don't see the forest for the trees. And when they are in there, they have a unique perspective. And if we're hiring people that are really good, and we're putting them in a really good process, then they can improve upon it. And I learn from my students. I learn from other professionals. I learn all of the time. I don't think that I have all the answers. And obviously, what we talk about here is not anecdotal. That doesn't mean that it works for every single person, right? And we have to have our own brain. And that's part of being the entrepreneur and doing things our way. So just keep all that in mind as you go about and lean upon them, because they have probably a better way of doing it after they've had some time to really settle in.
Right.
All right. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for being on the show here today. I would love to do a follow-up with you sometime to hear how this went and talk about a new opportunity.
Absolutely. And again, thank you so much. I mean, the course you offered definitely helped put me in a totally different mindset, both personally and for my family. And the group that you also offer, the Facebook group, is again a huge help. And I do consider you a mentor for sure
Oh,
in achieving what we've achieved so far and on my way to having a mini empire.
well, Tracy, thank you so much. Tell me where to send the check. Oh, that's great. All right. Well, thank you, Tracy, for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Ben.
Now, if you'd like to hear more great conversations like today's with Tracy, then I want you to head on over to ilovebookkeeping.com, because there you're going to find all of our shows. You're going to find the show notes, and we got some other great goodies and resources that are there. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, like Tracy was here today, then we've got a Be a Guest link on the ilovebookkeeping.com website. And finally, to discover more about the courses that Tracy mentioned and other ones that we have, like Bookkeeper Elite, if you go to the courses page on ilovebookkeeping.com, you can find out all about those. Thank you for being a great listener. Thank you for being a bookkeeping professional. Listen, if you would like to hear more great conversations just like today's, then I want you to head on over to ilovebookkeeping.com. There, you're going to find all of the shows, the notes, and some other great goodies that we have for you there. Now, if you'd like to be a guest on the I Love Bookkeeping show, there is a link that says Be a Guest. Go in there, and we'll walk you through the process of getting on the show. And finally, to discover more about our programs, go to the courses page on the ilovebookkeeping.com site. There you have it, another great episode of I Love Bookkeeping. Thank you for being a proud listener, and thank you for being a bookkeeping professional. Enjoy the rest of your week.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends working hard at keeping the books. You want to change your life, you want to grow that biz, it's not as hard as it looks. Be a money guide, a profit coach, step up your game